So here is a test recording of how you can record in Zoom. So I've set this up as a personal meeting and shared my video and audio, and now I'm sharing a particular window, which in this case happens to be the Future of Meetings Symposium Speaker Instructions slides. So that seemed like an appropriate thing to test this on. So what I'm going to do is just go through the slides and cover some of what the guidelines cover, and also show how the Zoom recording works as well. So I guess our first thing as a committee is that we're extremely grateful to all of our speakers and contributors and all of the people who we know are coming to help us really bring together a very broad discussion of what the future looks like, both for meetings, but also for all of the things that are related, the future of work and collaboration and social interaction. It seems like this is a really exciting time where we can really, I guess, think about what we want to take out of this and how we want to become better. And so, yeah, so thank you to everyone who is going to help us make that happen as much as we can, this giant experiment that hopefully goes relatively smoothly. The speaker kit was put together to help contributors get an idea of how to prepare, the different things to keep in mind. Their guidelines, we're not, it's not like we're enforcing them, it's just hopefully this is some helpful information. We wanted to make the point that, this is an interesting new world in the sense that, screenshots and recordings and things are a lot more possible in the virtual world compared to how it was before. So we recommend being a little, aware of any sensitive content and just making sure that our audience is specifically also aware if you don't want it shared or reproduced. I think for the most part, we expect this to be a very open discussion, so we're not really expecting anything super secret, but just to be aware of this, that we'll do our best to ask people not to share material or anything like that beyond like a tweet saying this is a really cool talk, and yeah, just you may find this symbol useful in those contexts. So as many people watching this hopefully are aware, our conference platform for the Future of Meetings will be Whova. And I know many people have registered and signed into the portal already, which is great. We chose this after a lot of research into the different options available, and we felt it was a nice blend of trying to keep everything in one place, but also having enough functionality and diversity in the ways you can interact that it should be a good fit for a lot of different people. So there's a phone app, so there's both the web app, which you can view. The browser is actually, we should put this on the slide, but we prefer, it's Chrome preferred by Whova. So if you do have any problems with the browser or different aspects, we recommend trying Chrome. There's a companion phone app, so it's Whova's phone app, but every conference that's run through there gets like its own section or its own app, and so we have a section there. It's very similar, like the content's almost identical to the web app. There's some extra networking features that are pretty useful, so we do recommend trying out the phone app. And we were told by Whova that, a lot of people like to, say, have the phone app, for chat or discussion alongside while they're watching, say, the talks on the screen. So there's different ways you can use it. But the phone app is definitely more prioritized towards the networking aspects. And so there's different sections, there's the kind of standard agenda where you can see the talk schedule. Oh, there's a bug. You can see the talk schedule, you can see different attendees who are signed into the app, but there's also the community section. So this is where it's kind of like a discussion board, discussion forums, all text-based, think similar to Slack in ways. So it's got some similarities to Slack. And then there's the exhibition center, the sponsors, messages, and we'll be putting more material up as we get closer to the event. So each speaker, so everyone in the app, every attendee has a profile. So as a speaker, because you're highlighted as a speaker in the agenda, and as a category of a speaker, you also have like a little speaker tag under your photo. So that's something that sets you apart from other attendees. We put in as much information about the speakers as we had available. But once you're in the app yourself, you can actually go and change all of the information and update it, add your own personal content, and all those kind of things. So yeah, so you can, there's lots of different ways to get at this profile. Like you can, it's on the main menu, it's through the attendees. If you have any trouble, let us know. But yeah, you should be able to hopefully edit your profile. The whole system is built to have squares in mind. So we found that out earlier when some photos were, you know, like almost square. It didn't just crop, it kind of like squished in some places. So we do recommend using a square shaped photo and of good enough resolution that it will work with both the web pages and the platforms. And your bio information can kind of be as long as you want. I don't think there's a character limit. So you're welcome to try and do that. I thought that actually talk titles and descriptions of talks could be managed by speakers from the app, but so far we haven't been able to find that. So I'm going to confirm that with Whova itself, but otherwise we'll just collect them via Google form or some other way. So presentation instructions, we've kind of circulated this information already, but for keynotes, we've put a block of 30 minutes. For invited, it's 15, and for contributed, it's 10 minutes. The idea with these slots is that, you know, especially if you're recording, which we are recommending, but obviously we will support live if that's what you prefer. But if you're recording, you have the entire time to fill that with whatever you want. You know, it can be slides and you're talking like this, or it can be, you know, maybe half talk, half demo, I don't know, or stitch together different material. It's pretty flexible, but it means you have that whole slot to use. And then the idea is while this is playing, the speakers are kind of online as well next to the talk and can talk to people via either the chat section, which is like just general discussion, or Q&A, which is where we ask people who are attending to say if you have a specific question, post it in the Q&A. And I think it automatically labels it if the speaker replies. The Q&A lives on beyond the talk. There's also a specific section in Whova where you can see all the session Q&As. And, you know, so people can actually watch the talk recording later, you know, not in the live session, come back and ask a question there. And so, yeah, so the Q&A can kind of be living on beyond just the talk time as well. And you can always start discussions separately in the community area afterwards. So for the format, we are preferring pre-recorded. I think, yeah, so just let us know as soon as possible if you do want to do something live so we can make sure that we can have that logistically sorted. We would like them submitted by the 31st of August. So this gives us time to, you know, make sure that the video is okay, maybe run a test in the platform or somewhere just to check how it's working. We also want to, you know, add like a header and an ender slide just to, and also upload it to the platform that we'll stream it from. So we're still figuring out a bit of that technical issues, but that'll give us enough time to get everything together and make sure that on the day it can go smoothly. Like I said, having the presentation recorded means you have a bit of artistic flexibility, but, you know, I also recognize, you know, even for me, just using Zoom like this is probably the extent of my artistic ability in terms of recording a talk. So, yeah, so like, it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. We do recommend that you have, you know, both whatever material you're showing or just yourself, like if that's what you plan to do. But we do recommend that you do have yourself visible because that is good for creating the human connection side of things. If you could just hear my voice, and see the slides. I don't know, I feel like it would feel like less of a conversation. Yeah, Murphy's Law is kind of the motto we're trying with the conference, you know, to think about all the ways things can go wrong and have backups for backups. So by having it recorded, it means that we're limiting the potential for failures like computer technical issues, bandwidth. I can't tell you how many times in meetings lately someone's internet just goes at, you know, the worst time. It's I sometimes get the spinning rainbow wheel just because, you know, it's just decided I'm not allowed to talk anymore. So anyway, so there's Murphy's Law is definitely a thing, and we are trying to mitigate as much technical risk as we can. And like I said, we will try to support live talks where we can. And panels, pretty hard to do those recorded. Same with workshops and discussions. So those are live by default, but if you have creative ways to make them not live, that's also something we could talk about. Content, so like I said, slides, probably in full screen mode like this, although I know in the recording it's not really full screen. But anyway, and then an overlay of your camera feed so that people can see you talking. we do recommend, like, so I think this is where the experimentation part comes in. Like if you are recording a talk, what I did, ooh, whoops, just hit my laptop. What I did before recording this was I tried recording a short snippet and seeing how it would look in the recording. And then I'm like, okay, well, this looks okay. So there's a little bit of experimentation to know that, so you know what you're actually getting into as you record. And, you know, often it overlays the video on top of the slides. So that's also something to keep in mind. I think that depends on whether it's widescreen or not. And because these slides are not widescreen, I think my video is not actually overlapping on the slide at the moment. Video and animation. So just, I'm sure like anyone recording is going to look at it afterwards. So it's just a matter of checking whether video and animation translate smoothly if it's recording okay. That can be kind of, I guess, computer dependent as well. And we have some suggestions later in this guide for software tools and formats and stuff. So question answers, like I said, the Whova comes with this embedded question and answer function next to the talks, and the questions, like we feel like it can be live. Sorry. Anyway, so you can see them next to the talk. You can, in fact, it's an interesting system. So the question and asker is always super clear. And then I think, from what I understand, anyone can reply. Obviously, like, you know, it's aimed at the speakers, so we'll be encouraging people to like let the speakers reply. But it's an interesting way you can actually have a conversation with other people as well, alongside the question and answer, or people can contribute answers if they feel like there's something relevant to say. The ones where a speaker replies do get that label of speaker replied. And that's because we tied the accounts of the speakers to the session, so that's how it knows. We will be helping with moderation. So there's obviously a few different things that we have to moderate as part of this. There's obviously the technical part, like is it playing smoothly, but also the question and answers and the chat. So we'll be doing our best to keep up with that and just make sure everything's going smoothly there. In the browser, it's called chat. In the phone app, it's called comment. But what I can tell, I think they're the same. So, you know, if you comment in the phone app, you see it in the browser, but we'll do a bit of testing just to make sure. And yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility in the platform. You know, this community tab is sitting right next to each talk. So, you know, someone could say, hey, this was a really cool topic. Let's start a discussion group about this and talk more. So I think there's a lot of flexibility to really take the discussion beyond a set talk time. So one of the things with our conference is that we care a lot about inclusivity and accessibility. So we want to try and make it as inclusive as possible while demonstrating that a virtual platform is a good place to do this. So these are some of the tips that we've been told in terms of how to make your talks more accessible. So there's a lot of people out there that read lips. So it's a good idea to make sure your mouth is visible. Again, going back to having your video on the screen so people can read lips. We're going to have all talks captioned, both live and recorded. If you have any questions or concerns about this, let me know. We'll probably have it, you know, there's an option between either turning it on or burning it in. We haven't quite figured it out. We'll probably have it alongside so people can turn it on if they need it or want it. But that's still kind of a technical thing we're sorting out. And at the start of your talk or contribution, it's probably good just to say your name, affiliation, and the title of your session. And if I think back to when I started this recording, I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. So I have a lot to learn too. I am Vanessa Moss. I am the chair of the Future of Meetings Organizing Committee, and I'm based at CSIRO. I did say the topic, at least I covered that much. So also if it's live, there's a few other things to take into account. It's good, I mean, this is just good practice in general sometimes, but it's good to repeat questions or comments that you're addressing. This can be good to just, I guess, ensure that you're getting the right idea about what the question is. It would be good to be clear as much as possible who is speaking or who you're addressing. So if you're a panel chair, then, you know, say, direct the person and say, this person, like, I think that also just helps in a virtual context so people know who is meant to reply. It's actually very hard to send out, you know, say like, what do you think, without a specific thing in, say, like a Zoom call, because you don't know necessarily who's going to reply. So yeah, so I think it's good to have this directional aspect, and it ensures that people who are listening but can't potentially see can also get those cues. Speaking evenly, not too quickly is good. Trying to be concise, also good. These are also just general guidelines for, I guess, communicating in a clear way. Like I said, we want to have automatic live captioning alongside live contributions. So if you have any questions or concerns about this, get in contact with us. Live sessions will be recorded. And our idea is that we'll have the live captioning, but we'll also, because there's like an accuracy limit, most of the live captioning services are 80 to 90% at best, and it really depends on sound quality and all kinds of things. And from recent transcripts that I've seen in some of the automatic services, I don't think it likes my voice. So we want to also have this corrected captions that are human verified to go along with the recordings. So that will be the plan there. We've suggested a few possible recording mechanisms. So there's different ones. Some of them require you to have paid accounts. Some of them are free and it's fine. There's obviously, this is just if you want to use some of the existing meeting software that's really, easy to port. But I recognize some people out there, might want to do something super fancy, full body tracking in VR next to, I don't know, a VR view of some world. So local capture, if you have your own video compositing software, feel free to use it. I think, from trying these different services, Zoom is pretty easy. I've managed it. So if it comes down to one and you're really not familiar, I'd recommend probably starting with Zoom just to give it a go, and we can help you via email if you have questions. So these are some examples. I think this is a slide in progress, so I'm going to skip this one for now. In terms of video requirements, MP4 is obviously preferred. This is, I guess, an easy format to work with in terms of how we're going to then share the content later. So we can probably look into converting, but if you can send us or upload something that's MP4, that would help a lot. 30 frames per second, I don't really know what Zoom records in. I guess I can analyze that later. Aspect ratio, so 16:9 widescreen. I think that's what a lot of things record by default, and it's actually what this recording will be, even though the slides are not. And obviously as high resolution as possible. In terms of audio, recording in a quiet room with a good quality mic. I'm outside right now, but you can't tell because my cool virtual background. Yeah, it can be good, I think, to run a couple of tests either in the app or by doing a recording and check how your sound comes across, just to make sure that it's pretty clear. I found out that my headphone sound is not as good as my webcam sound, so that's what I'm using now, the webcam. Video size, 2 GB or less is preferred. We just don't want to have like huge files, but I don't think there's like a really like a strong insistence that it has to be small. We'd actually probably prefer bigger and higher quality. We can always, make it lower quality if we have to. And we definitely recommend rewatching the recording prior to upload, just to check how the AV and everything's come across and make sure it's something that looks good to you. So this is a graphic from the SIGGRAPH 2020 guidelines that kind of, gives you some ideas about how to pre-record. It says use wide internet. I'm on Wi-Fi. Turn off all programs. I have 200 Chrome tabs open. Clear desktop. Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see how this recording went, because I don't think I have a lot of spare memory right now. Notifications, I think Zoom does actually, well, actually, speaking of notifications, you don't know this, but a notification just popped up on my screen. I'm pretty sure it's not in the recording. So I think Zoom has the ability, when you're sharing your screen, to just shut those down. Set your display screen scaling and layout. Yeah, I think a lot of these can also just get around by the fact that if you do test recordings and see how it goes, then yeah, you'll probably be able to tell how it's going from that. But I realize maybe I haven't met any of these requirements. Oops. Right, so presentation style, visuals are always good. Definitely visuals, preference visuals over text. Good design is always nice. A lot of these are guidelines just on how to help you put a talk together. looking in the camera is an interesting one. So I'm doing my best to try and look at the camera right now. So what I've done is I've moved the video to like under the camera, and you know, that's how I can check if I'm actually looking at the camera, because I'm kind of having a conversation with myself, I guess. But if you're not looking at the camera, then the recommendation is probably to try and keep a consistent gaze. We've heard reports that, you know, if someone's looking at the camera and then looking at some notes and looking over there, like it can be distracting. So I think it just comes down to having a look at the recording and seeing how it all comes across. Speaking with energy and a normal tone of voice is also good. Just like a conversation with yourself and the void. So yeah, I think it will get easier over time, to be honest. So in terms of location, lighting, so HD webcams preferred. I discovered that my inbuilt webcam was really not very good. So around like the middle of COVID times, I went and bought a webcam, and that's been a really good investment. You should try to keep it at eye level, I guess, or just, you know, just so you can maintain this level of eye contact. Good even light. So it turns out my camera has an HDR mode. I usually turn it off, but I turned it on now because I'm backlit, because I'm outside, and that actually helped a lot. So I think webcams now are pretty clever, and you can maybe sit just about anywhere, but you just want to check how the lighting's going. Reducing clutter, so that's where virtual backgrounds are excellent. You can have all kinds of virtual backgrounds. In Zoom, you can also have animated virtual backgrounds, so I'm sure you can do some interesting things there. Wearing solid colors, I don't know, it's kind of, I feel like it's also personal preference, and it's just a case of seeing how it transmits to the camera and whether there's anything that, you know, is strobing, but I don't know if webcams have the same problem as like TV cameras. Jewelry, like I like jewelry, so you shouldn't feel like you can't wear jewelry, but if you are wearing a headset like that, you know, can clash with it, then it could make noise. So I think it's just a case of checking how that goes. Quality audio is important. I think my audio quality could be better, but you can see how it's recorded. I think that's one of the challenges of these times, is that, you know, I always assume I know how my video and my audio is coming across because I can hear myself. And, you know, it shows me the little camera of how my video should look. But in reality, there's lots of servers and things often in between this. I mean, it's a little different for a local recording. It should be a bit more of what you see is what you get. But it does come back down to the fact that you just want to make sure that, you know, you're not making assumptions about how it's being recorded. So that's, again, where checking can be good. Small space, soft walls. I'm outside. Maybe if I had curtains surrounding me, it'd be better. Maybe I'll try recording something in a smaller space. But yeah, I agree that you don't want your audio to sound too hollow, like it could in a really big empty room with hard walls. So we can't make any assumptions about where our audiences are attending anymore. I think that's actually one of the exciting things. You could be anywhere. You could be outside, inside, in transit. So there's a lot of different settings. So don't necessarily assume that someone who's watching is at home with 2 screens on a desktop with a big screen or anything like that. There's going to be a wide range of settings. Some people might be watching on their personal, like a mobile device or so. So just keep that in mind when putting content together. It's good to try and ensure people can see and read all content on your slides. I'm going to probably try to watch this on my phone and see how it goes, and see if we even lived up to our own rules about content being appropriately sized, but hopefully it's okay. Copyright's important. So if you show, I mean, this is kind of standard, but if you show anything that doesn't belong to you, just make sure you're not violating any copyrights and give credit for it on the slide somewhere. And we do want submissions to try and be as inclusive as possible, and also complying with our code of conduct, which you can find at that link there. So that's on the event website. You can also find it inside the app under, I think it's under logistics and code of conduct. So it's there, and it's something you would have seen as part of registration. It's one of the things you should agree to and hopefully read. It's not anything surprising, but it's just setting the level of expectation for how we want people to behave during the conference. There's like a wealth of places you can get nice graphics and images from the internet. So here's some suggestions that within the committee have been found. So you're welcome to check them out. I confess, I actually hadn't heard of any of them, so I'm going to try them out myself and see what they're like. So that's cool. In terms of how we're going to collect the talks, so we decided to make use of the AARNet service CloudStor. This is kind of like, you know, the same way Google Drive or Dropbox or so, but it's run by the by AARNet, and it's so you know, we have, I don't know, something like some good amount of storage that we can accept uploads through this. So that'll be really useful. If you have any problems with it, just get in contact, but I tried it out a couple of times and it should all work fine. The password, so I think there was a length limit, and it had to have capitals, and it had to have a number, and it had to have a symbol. So that is the password that we have. Just to note that the O in Scott is a 0. Hopefully everything, you can probably also copy and paste it from these slides, and hopefully it would work too. So CloudStor is, like I said, an academic file sharing service by AARNet. I found out, interestingly, I don't know much about the history, so maybe we'll find out more about it during the conference, but AARNet was the first provider of internet across Australia through the academic networks in, I think it was 1989, which is just so cool. Like, anyway, that was something I found out recently and was quite impressed by. If you do have any problems, get in contact with me, because I set up this upload and happy to help with any problems you might encounter. And finally, if you have any questions, please get in contact. So Shanoa Tremblay, one of our committee members, put together the bulk of this presentation, and I think it's great, and it covers so many useful different things. So thank you, Shanoa, for doing so. And if you do have any questions about anything, please get in contact with her. Other members of the committee, we looked over it and we helped, I guess, add additional things, but she really took the lead on this, so that's been really great. And thank you for being a part of the Future of Meetings. Oh, yes, and we looked around for different guidelines. We saw the SIGGRAPH 2020 guidelines, and so some of the content and some of the things we covered were inspired by that. So you should check those out as well for additional guidelines, but we did want to give the credit there. Cool. Thank you for listening.